What's up, everybody? Sonor Hackor here. This is what I'm calling the Sonor Signature Massacre Ebony set. Not Massacre. Ha 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 ha. Massacre. Because somebody did take these signature light shells. Look at that. Beautiful birch. Took these shells, a 16 floor tom, a 14 floor tom, 10 rack, 12 rack, cut them down, for some reason installed a bird's eye maple veneer inside. Looks like this 10 was already taken off, and so where I'm at with this project is I took off all the hardware, trying to get a look at the shells, see what was done. Looks like somebody slightly refinished, with some sort of clear poly wipe-on finish with the ebony. So I can sand that easily and then bring it back to pretty much like factory. I mean, it's pretty close now. It's probably got a little more sheen than it had from factory, but actually tung oil does a pretty good job mimicking the original Sonor exterior matte finish, and that's what's going to be needed on the 10 and the 12 certainly. I mean, it's a massacre. Look at this. I don't know if it was veneered on the exterior as well in this maple bird's eye veneer. It's possible, because as I look at this, if somebody were taking off a veneer like that and then trying to sand these down and refinish, they could have pulled away that veneer. And then, this ebony veneer is very thin. It's very thin. And the way it's laid up from factory is that it's actually a furniture grade veneer that does have a middle section there. You can see in the ply layup, it's a birch shell like you'd see on a light. And then there is an inner dark ply, which is ebony. There's a middle substrate ply, which is probably a poplar or some sort of really light wood, very easy to work with. That's that thicker one. And then there's the inner ebony veneer ply. And so that's one way, if you really have a signature shell, is it's got that shell composition there where, you see that inner ebony, there is something in the middle that does not look like birch, does not look like beech, could be maybe a sycamore or one of those Italian maple type of woods. My bet is like poplar, like a sort of binder layer there. And then, beyond that, you got an inner veneer there of ebony as well, because a lot of those furniture grade veneers were double-sided. So veneer, and then a ply of a sort of binder wood, makes it pliable, makes it so the ebony doesn't split, and then an inner ply there of the ebony. So anyway, these Massacre ebony shells are wonderful, beautiful. Or, if you look what's been done to them here, it's the Massacre ebony. But as I'm trying to work my way to take off these inner veneers of this bird's eye maple, what I'm noticing is that it's possible that the inner veneer is actually just glued on. Let me see if I can get a close-up here. This thing really doesn't want to do it. Ah, fantastic, finally. You can just kind of see this one's left over. If you look there, I don't think it's glued. When I look at the residue that's left here inside of this, it's messy like glue. But it also could just be some sort of adhesive, almost like the backing on this veneer here is just sticky, tacky 3M type stuff, which is what I'm hoping, because if that's the case, then probably some Goo Gone, something oil-based and really gentle, will start to lift this stuff up. And, it's very thin. It's not backed, like this stuff here from the factory. It's just a simple, 1 millimeter, ply of some sort of maple bird's eye product. So anyway, I got here, we got 10 by 7.5, 12 by 10, 14 by 11.25, 16 by 14. Those are good sizes. Those are very usable sizes, I feel like, you know, like I could play with that. But then I thought, well, what bass drum can I use, you know? Because the original auction did have an 18-inch bop size bass drum that had this maple veneer on the exterior. And 18s are not my size anyway. I know that those are really valuable bass drums, but I just figured, you know, I don't know what I'm getting into here. I don't want to spend another, you know, $600-700 on a bass drum that I'm not even probably going to use. I don't even want it. Luckily, Steve Maxwell in Chicago just happened to be selling, oh my God, what is that creature? Steve Maxwell in Chicago was selling this project drum, a 20 by 14 phonic bass drum, which somebody had put an Alpi type veneer, a manufactured man-made clone of Ebony on. And you know, they did a really good job. This is really, it's tight. There's no bubbles. This is a really well done veneer job on this. They recut the edges, put a counter 45 on it. There is still a little bit of ripping on the veneer here, which is, you know, I can deal with that. You can see this mark from the router blade has a little bearing, a round bearing that allows the shell to move around easily. And so it kind of left that. Normally I'd say if you're going to cut edges, put some masking tape along, you know, just below the edge you're cutting, and that usually protects the shell from that. But at any rate, this, if you look at here, the match, I mean, my gosh, for what I paid, which was a pretty good deal, all I'm gonna have to do to this is probably just darken it up a little bit. You know, maybe just do one pass with a really diluted ebony stain, you know, and I'll test it on the bottom or something to see if I can get it close. And that should reveal a sort of richness, you know. But since these have been finished, and that's totally unfinished, it's possible that when I test it with some tongue oil, it might give a richness a lot like the original Massacre Ebony. But at any rate, I feel like here I am. I got a 20 by 14 phonic bass drum, beautiful, you know, beach shell. That's gonna sound dreamy. I mean, beach bass drums are just thumpy no matter what size. So I got 20 by 14, 12 by 10, 10 by 7.5, 14 by 11, 16 by 14. I mean, that's a great kit to gig with for sure, even as heavy as these are. I mean, that's just a beautiful kit to throw together and see what I can do with it. Oh, and it came with original bass drum hoops. Wow. You know, and these are usually all dinged up. Really the only damage to this one is see that there, the requisite claw indentations from when somebody dropped it at some point. But, you know, I can get around that. You know, maybe I'll do bass drum hoops that are, you know, matching this ebony here. I don't know, you know. So anyway, that's my Massacre Ebony Nightmare that hopefully I'm going to turn into a Massacre Ebony Dream. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.